Live from London, it's Car-Boyz. Yes, we are back.
You're playing along to that.
If I can get that to actually stop. Hello, yes, one and all, we are back. Welcome. The number one car radio show, now with pictures, returns to the airways. Now with added vitamin C, chlorine, and bleach to help fight COVID-19. I hope you had a good week, dear viewer. Me, I've been driving around in a Ford Falcon like Mad Max, Road Warrior, establishing a new dystopic empire across southwest London. So far, I've only managed to colonise some of the garden and the shed where I mostly live. But fear not, my reign will be both dictatorial and benign. Coming up on the show this week, we have all the news that's not fit to print in the news. We'll be delving into your correspondence in that part of the show we like to call the mailbag, and we've got a corker of a car competition for you as well. This week, I shall be going back to basics. A silver-haired Roy Walker, he of catchphrase fame, who would chant as his mantra, "Say what you see." Say what you see. Yes, our car competition this week is literally, name that car. I'll show you a picture of a car, and you've got to tell us what it is. It's literally that simple. We'll have some British classics, some American legends, and even some Eastern European pieces of crap. All that and more in Name That Car. And if there's a car I could compare my co-host to, it'd have to be a Ferrari. He's difficult to control, costs a lot to keep on the road, and drinks like a fish. Thank you. Here's Simon.
Nice. Thanks, Rich. Yes, I have supercar tastes, but I'm living on a Korean super mini budget. Yes, of course. We have a pretty hot show for you this week on the way today with some exciting international and exotic in our Lost Highway section of the show. I have an amazing diamond in the rough for our classic car section this week. This week, we'll be looking at the original Ford Puma.
Ooh, there's no rust on it, so I don't recognise it. Sorry.
When you look at it, it would just fall apart. So we've got all the lowdown on that, and we'll be asking the age-old question of who actually buys gold cars? Is it just Indians or the elderly or both? We'll answer that. So stay tuned for all of this and more. I'm Simon Suchuan, and what an atmosphere. I love a party with a happy atmosphere. So let me take you there, and you'll be dancing in the cool night air.
Yeah, Simon Suchuan there, folks. Enfield's very own Russ Abbott, but just not quite as funny. I was going to say, you have to be quite old, Simon, to remember that Russ Abbott having that hit single in about 1986.
Yes, that is true.
Unfortunately, we're both old enough to do that. And I'm Richard Green, and... We all came out to Montreux on the Lake Geneva shoreline to make records with a mobile. We didn't have much time. Frank Zappa and the Mothers weren't the best place around, but someone stupid with a flare gun and burned the place to the ground.
Yes.
Lyrics by Deep Purple, keyboards by Fisher-Price.
Yes.
And yes, before you ask, John Lord is literally spinning in his grave. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Car-Boyz.
Car-Boyz.
Welcome to the programme. Now, usually in this part of the show, I have my weekly rant, but I was reminded by a listener in Asia, Simon, that I was beginning to sound like a spoilt Westerner who has too few first world problems. And I thought, okay, then, instead of me setting up shop in the Speaker's Corner area of the Car-Boyz Hyde Park area of the show, going forward, we've got a new feature. It's going to be called Richard's Take. This will be a look at the world from my very own warped perspective. And before you say, hey, Richard, isn't this just rebranding a tired feature within the programme? I say, it is, and get used to it. This week, Richard's Take, look, I'm already referring to myself in the third person. I must be very important, either that or mad. Anyway, this week, my take is regarding car ownership and driving. Due to the fact the planet is still suffering from the global pandemic, I'm suggesting the car industry is going to be saved by the virus and not wiped out. Obviously, many car manufacturers, excuse me, are going to and are suffering. Jobs are being lost, production is being reduced, and unfortunately many bottom-end roles will be farmed out overseas if huge multinationals can do this. Pandemic or no pandemic, the pencil pushers will always want to save money. Jobs are being lost at Jaguar Land Rover, Nissan Europe, Ford, etc. In fact, the Society of Motor Manufacturers, or as I like to call them by the acronym SMM, reckon 1 in 6 jobs in the UK in the car industry is under threat. But unlike JLo, it's a big but. What hasn't changed is our desire to use cars. In fact, it's going to increase, if not already, eventually. Here in London, our public transport's been virtually empty for 3 or 4 months. Nobody's on the train, nobody's on the tube. Buses are empty and are only allowed to carry 8 or 20 people, depending on their size. The double-decker bus, I think, should be able to carry, 65, 70.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the school run's been reduced in numbers, but commuting has gone up as many people decide to work from home. Sorry, commuting's gone down, but we still need to get to the supermarket. We still need to get to the shops. We still need to see relatives, unfortunately. Therefore, to go out our daily lives, a car is even more essential than ever, and certainly safer than the train, the bus, or even a taxi. There are even specialised nights coming up specifically for drivers and their passengers. These include drive-in cinemas, drive-in comedy nights, even a drive-in church. For the latter, I'm not sure what's stopping you from drowning out the priest with the dulcet tones of the music from Radio 2 on a Sunday morning, but I'm sure you wouldn't ever do that. I think they've drawn the line, though, at drive-in pubs. I did suggest it, they said no. Now, with new car manufacturing in decline and the desire to drive increase, that can only mean increased demand for the second-hand market. This would, in theory, drive prices up for second-hand cars. We've already seen this online and in the classifieds, if you've been having a look, and in theory, will eventually cause a demand for new cars, as well as and therefore increase production. It's all a bit pie in the sky, I know. Demands on certain things happen before any of this comes to fruition. But if our demand for more cars increases, that can only be a good thing for the whole industry. Simon, any thoughts?
I thought it was 1960s because near me they're just opening up a drive-through cinema.
Wow.
Which is really, really odd. So yeah, you turn up.
Did we ever have? It's an Americanism.
No.
I've been to a drive-in 30 years ago in New York State, and it was all right. It was weird. We tuned the radio to the FM frequency for the movie, yes. And I just thought it was a bit strange because I like the process. I do like cinemas, and I like the architecture, and I like the whole process of getting the crappy popcorn. And when we first looked at the cinema, you could still smoke. It's fantastic. Only upstairs though, if you wanted to smoke. But yeah, so I don't think it was ever a thing over here, was it?
No, I don't think it was, but it's something that's come over, and they've decided that you turn up, and then they allocate you a space, and then you watch a film. So
and I just think from a wider perspective, I've been looking at the price of second-hand cars. They seem to be slightly increasing. More people are using cars. My commute into work has got it has got a lot more increase, certainly than it was during the height of the pandemic. But I just think the law of diminishing returns and the sort of the desire to own cars will only increase the desire to build cars. We can't become Cuba and just be driving around all in second-hand cars. This thing is gonna ramp up. More cars are going to be produced, and I hate to say it, more people are going to drive. I'm not getting on a bus. I'm not getting on a train.
No, too risky.
It's not happening. Not right now. Thank you very much. I'm certainly not getting on a plane. So the safest thing is the car. So hopefully that's my rant or my take. It's my new thing. Just to let you know, I also got a new sponsor for the show. It's it's all the way from Mallorca, and it's called water.
Don't taste like what it oughta.
Water don't taste like what it oughta, especially if it comes from Mallorca. And and it does smell of water. What a great sponsor. So if you fancy something to drink, why not choose water? Low calorie. Shall we have some news? What do you think?
Yes, let's go for some news. First off, this week in traffic wardens are the lowest form of life news. Surprise, surprise, private firms handed out £1.6 million worth of more tickets, 1.6 million more tickets than last year compared to the 12 months previous, the latest figures reveal. The number was rocketed to 8.4 million, and meaning that they were being issued at an astonishing rate of 1 every 4 seconds. So that's one. It's one now. There's one now. So the figure for the financial year, for the years 2019 to 20.
Here's another one.
Was 24% up on the 6.8 million tickets issued in 2018 to 19. According to research by the RAC Foundation. The tickets can cost drivers up to £100 a time. The parking companies obtain records from the DVLA licensing agency to chase motorists for alleged infringements in private car parks such as the shopping centres, leisure facilities and motorway service stations. In March 2019, the new law came into effect, aiming to bring rogue parking firms into line and put them out of business. The legislation was designed to lead to the creation of a code of conduct. However, this has not yet happened. So, I don't
know what it's like in the rest of the world. In England, certainly in England, PCNs, I think, are just run by gangsters. I think I have had one PCN in my life. Accident, I took the wrong car to work and I registered the wrong registration. I registered my registration, not my wife's registration, so I got a ticket. So I phoned up the parking people. I said, look, I'm sorry, it was my fault. The car I took was the wife's car.
Yeah.
Nothing we can do. I said, yeah, but I have an agreement to park there. I've paid to park there. I can show you the evidence of me paying to park there. Yeah. There's only me that works at the office. No, there's nothing we can do. You just have to pay it. I said, yeah, but I'm trying to, no, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can, I said, but what I'm saying is I've paid to park there. I just entered the wrong registration. That's your fault. I had a friend who had his car towed by a PCN company in Birmingham, got it back, all scratches down the side. Nothing they could do. And that was after a £200 release fee.
Wow.
So I really just think they are
secret police.
Well, I wouldn't credit them with a role of police. I just see them as gangsters. I just see them as absolute gangsters. Friend of mine, we were working late night shift at a TV station, went off to get coffee, parked down the side of a coffee shop. This one parking space is owned privately, not owned by the council. There's nobody in there. It's 11 o'clock at night. Came out, clamp on the side of the wheel, had to go and get £200 out of the cash machine to get the clamp off the side of the wheel.
11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock at night. Nobody else around. And there's a little sign, yay big, that says, this is a private parking space. You cannot park here. And there was shall we call him a tosspot? Yes, we shall. Sat in a van. As soon as my friend went in to get coffee, came out 250 quid later or something like that. To take that. Now, if you remove that, if you go home and get yourself an angle grinder, remove that, that's illegal. But what he's doing is legal. And I think that's what they're trying to stop. Obviously, they're not, because this is continuing to go on according to those statistics.
Or, as we said before, what about French number plates?
Yeah, I'd just do that. just get some French number plates and an angle grinder. Some Polish ones, check. As I said to you the other day, I saw Ukrainian number plates in London. That is a long way to drive from Kiev to London. Just saying.
Very long.
Okay. And moving on, more news and scary news from the company that brought you. They're boxy, but they're safe. Volvo have confirmed it's recalling 2.2 million vehicles worldwide due to an extremely rare seatbelt safety issue, which impacts almost 170,000 cars in the UK. The recall is the Swedish brand's biggest ever and applies to passenger cars built between, wait for it, 2006 and 2018. Ooh. Okay, so now we've got to work out how many people have died from this. Because
12 years.
12 years. There are 8 affected models, include the S60, S60 Cross Country, V60, V60 Cross Country, there we go, XC60, V70, VC70, and S80. In a statement released last week, investigators have identified a problem regarding the front seatbelt fastening mounted on the outer side of the front seat. Volvo said instances of the fault manifesting are extremely rare. The safety recall has been issued as a precautionary measure. Owners are being informed of the recall from early on last week. Volvo says it hopes to fix all cars by the end of the year, no cost to owners. But that is hilarious because the company that's only redeeming feature is safety is no longer safe. So I want to know what's going to happen next. Lamborghini start making cars that look dull? Thought?
I think it's just a bit of excitement for Volvo owners.
It probably is. It's
Never expected that.
The most excitement they're ever going to have. I had a recall on my wife's car. My mother had the same recall, both on the Honda. And that was quite a wide period. It was an airbag, a passenger airbag issue.
Right.
And I think that was globally, and they just went, I mean, it's nothing horrendous to worry about, but my wife's car at the time was 12 years old. So maybe a little bit to worry about.
Good thing about these safety recalls is they're usually all done for free by the dealers anyway.
Yeah, they should be. If a dealer ever tries to charge you for something that's a safety recall, tell them in no uncertain terms to get bent.
Meanwhile, in Can I Weld a Baked Bean Can onto the exhaust news?
Why not?
This is brilliant. Mandatory MOTs, which is the thing that you get for your car every year here in Britain, are to be reintroduced from the 1st of August, cutting the short 6-month test exemption, which was introduced on the 30th of March in response to the coronavirus lockdown, and it has been confirmed this week. The government has put into place an extension to test for half a year, though warn motorists that they will still be responsible for ensuring that their cars are roadworthy or else face a fine of up to £1,500. Confirming news on Monday, Roads Minister Baroness Veer said garages across the country are open, and I urge drivers who are due for the MOT to book a test as soon as they can. Drivers are being granted a 6-month exemption from MOT testing to help slow the spread of the virus, because of course the virus carries an MOT as well at the beginning of the pandemic. However, since lockdown has been eased in England, the motor industry bodies have called for the MOT extension to be axed to ensure the safety of drivers and to help garages recover from significant drops in business. And in 3 cars are failing their MOTs on average. It means that there could be 1.6 million cars being driven that would have been deemed unroadworthy if tested over the previous 2 months, with many drivers also likely to take advantage of the extension in June. Garages have been given
a princess from the 1970s.
Yes. The green light, they're showing the green light to clear some of the logjam of tests. The exemption is likely caused from September. Motorists caught by the police at the wheel of an unsafe vehicle will be fined, so you have been warned. I know with my dad's car, whose MOT I think was due in April, it's now saying it's due in November. So it automatically has extended that period. So I think we've got until then to get the MOT done.
MOTs are the way. I mean, I know they have them in other countries. I lived in Thailand for 3 years. They don't have any MOTs. It's hilarious. You've got cars. You're on the way to the airport at like 80 miles an hour with a car that's crabbing, and you are crapping your pants.
No,
please
safe.
drive
That's
slower.
good. That's good.
Please drive slower. Or you see cars like this just completely collapse in the middle. No problem, my pen light. Driving along. Now, MOTs in this country used to be easy to pass. That's why I made the title of the piece was "Can I weld a baked bean tin into?" A mate of mine did that. He welded a baked bean tin into the exhaust of a mini.
Wow.
I think actually a British Leyland Mini. It was that old. And I've got a mate who took the rear section of a Land Rover and remade it with chicken wire and a body filler. Which must have been very unsafe. So it has changed. It's got stricter. The last, I think, 20 years, they go around with a screwdriver underneath. And if they find anything that goes through, so my old Fiat Panda with holes in the floor would not have passed. So it has got stricter. Saying that, my brother-in-law, when he was very young, bought a Seat, and a friend of mine looked it over after we bought it, and he couldn't believe it had just been MOT'd. The front headlight apparently was held in with a stone. So there are ways to get around these things. depending on who you know. Finally, in Lawrence of Arabia lives on in Aston Martin news. Aston Martin's first ever motorbike. I did say motorbike, expected to be priced around £100,000. I'll have two. Capable of speeds of up to 186, has been photographed during test trials. That's a model of it. It looks quite mean.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that you could get a young friend on there, could you? This is roaring around a racetrack in France. The strictly limited edition AMB 001 track-only superbike. So it's track-only.
Right.
Is the creation of British luxury sports car maker Aston Martin and the reborn version of the legendary bike maker Brough Superior, once dubbed the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles. Only 100 of the bike will have been made. Brough Superior were relaunched in 2016. Of course, they were a pre-war Nottingham motorcycle maker, famed for having the fastest bikes in the world at the time. One of the most famous owners, of course, World War I hero Lawrence of Arabia. I think his bike is in the Imperial War Museum in South London.
Okay.
With a price of €108,000 in the UK, the AMB 001s are being hand-assembled in the Brough Superior factory in Toulouse. Oh God, the French are putting them together. With the first deliveries from autumn of this year. What is that definition of heaven? The Germans make the cars, the Swiss run the hotels, the Italians make the food, and I don't know.
Yes, the
British organise the trains. And the definition of that's heaven. The definition of hell: the Swiss make the food, the Germans make the love. That's it. The Italians organise the hotels, and the French build the cars. I'm just saying. The bike promises 180 horsepower. Bloody hell! With a turbocharged engine, a strong sculptural body formed and accented by carbon fibre. The design of the fin is derived from the side strake on Aston Martin cars. Okay, I guess. Runs along the length of the sterling green. That's red. Okay, the sterling green tank, passing under the saddle and out to the rear, creating a flow form along the top of the bike, I guess. Turbo on a bike sounds dangerous to me. Have you ever heard of
turbo lag?
A turbo on a bike?
No, I'd have thought with turbo lag, that's not really a good thing.
Well, surely it'll have a little. Don't they have a turbo then another turbo, like an impeller and then another impeller? Or now we're not talking turbo lag that I used to get on my old diesel. No. Hang on a second. There's the power. Basically it's a showpiece, isn't it? I mean, it's just to show off. I mean,
but do you think this is Aston Martin trying to diversify in order to make some money somehow?
Well, they're making 100, so they're going to make potentially they're priced at 100,000. So I mean, potentially they're going to make 10 million gross. I don't know what it's going to cost them. Maybe. Who knows? I think Aston Martin, these things like this are just folly. I would suggest that this is lending their brand like the same they did with the Toyota QI, where they made their own baby Aston Martin version of it. And I'll say it again, like a broken record. Aston Martin, you want to sort yourself out, go and make a put together four-door drop head or a four-door coupe, right? Make it for £60,000. You will kill BMW. People will buy that. Make it reliable. Use the Ford parts bin. All capable of doing this, but no, you're making cars that very, very few people can afford to buy.
And also, they're pretty similar. All the cars that they have in their product range look pretty much the same and are pretty much the same.
As a brand, I think they're knackered, but there you go. Shall we have some music for the classic car selection? I think I'm trying to find it.
I was asking whether or not the band can do some Lalo Schifrin.
Well, we'll try. I know what Lalo Schifrin is because
that's it.
Now we'll find. I will see what we can find. Hang on. Musically, we'll give you this. Oh yeah, jazz. Now the reason you wanted Lalo Schifrin was is the Brazilian composer who did the soundtrack to Bullet.
Absolutely. And the reference to that is because the classic car this week is the Ford Puma. Because, of course, when it was launched here in Britain, in Europe, on television in 1997, it was, they had a homage to Steve McQueen in Bullitt along the streets of San Francisco. Although it was only ever sold in Europe, it was never sold in America. So
it couldn't cope with those hills in San Francisco where you have to jump up. It would destroy the suspension.
Yes, of course. No, now though, the Puma badge has reappeared on a compact SUV, but we're looking at the compact sports coupe that was produced from September 97 to July 2002, and it was built exclusively at Ford's plant in Cologne, Germany. The car followed the common design cues of the time of Ford cars, which are the New Edge family of vehicles, namely the Ka, the Cougar, and the Focus. All Pumas, but front-engined and front-wheel drive, 3-door coupes with 4 seats, and they came with 15-inch alloy wheels as standard, which these are 15-inch alloy wheels, although the Racing Puma had 17-inch alloy wheels. But don't get a Racing Puma. We're not talking about the normal Puma here.
Right.
They had alloy wheels, front disc brakes, and rear drums, and the car was based on the Mark IV Fiesta with new engines, which were developed by Yamaha. It had a new body, stiffer suspension, wider track, and a close ratio gearbox, among other changes. Now, the engine, the Pumas were available with 4 different engine choices over its lifetime. The 1.4 litre engine, which was a bit asthmatic, but it was, of course, cheaper for the insurance. The 1.6 16 valve and the 1.7 VCT, which is the variable valve timing engine. And then they tuned it up by Tickford in the Racing Puma. They were all based on Ford's 1.16 valve Sigma engines, which were branded Zetec SE, and the journey of the 1.7 was quite interesting because what they used to do, they used to get the rough machine cinder blocks, and they were shipped them all the way out from Ford's Valencia plant in Spain, all the way to Japan to Yamaha for the coating of the cylinder heads, which is why they're pretty. They are almost like motorbike engines. They're that cool. These were then shipped back to Ford's Cologne plant in Germany, where the Puma was being assembled. The 1.7 litre engine Pumas are all equipped with low-speed traction control and anti-lock brakes. During the relatively short production period, there were approximately a total of 133,000 Pumas built, and at its peak there were 52,950 registered with the DVLA in the UK, which has since reduced to 10,000 on the road. So what do you look for in the Puma? As always, and we mentioned it at the top of the show, the main problem is corrosion, and the corrosion has claimed a huge number of Pumas, and it renders many of those as rolling restorations. Problem areas are the rear wings and the seals, and if you get there in early enough, it will only cost you probably about £300 to repair. Let it spread and you may be scuppered by the lack of spare panels. There is, this is unconfirmed, but there are rumours that, for example, what people were doing were getting the front wings of the Peugeot 206
Brilliant.
and grafting them on
Brilliant.
the front wings of the Puma. So there you go. So be careful, because there's a lack of spare panels for that. But you may ask, why would you then bother? Because besides looking cute, the Puma is a product of the excellent and exciting decade in Ford's history, where the company's brilliant engineers, led by the chassis guru Richard Perry-Jones, who, if I'm not mistaken, became the boss of the Jaguar Formula One team as well, and then ran that to the ground. He was in charge, and the engineers took over the asylum at Ford, which was always good. It's cheap as chips, and these are the Pumas that we're interested in here. Standard trim includes sports seats, anti-lock brakes, and traction control. And if you find a fully loaded Puma Thunder, that's the one you want to go for, with its leather and aircon. Word on the street, though, it's these ones, the cleanest and least rusty Pumas, which are the ones which have the classic potential. So prices for runners with a short MOT will start for around £500, but you want to avoid those. Spend £1,000 and you're more into the tidier cars with at least a year's MOT on there. And at the upper end, you can expect a clean 60,000 miler with some history. I looked online today and I found a 2002 Puma in silver, so one of the last ones, 2 previous owners with 53,000 miles on the clock, up in Leeds, for £2,850. So not a bad price for a little pocket rocket.
I mean, really, you know, £1,500 for a two-seater sports, all okay. It's front-wheel drive, but that's a completely usable car, nice little car. And potentially quite a if you've got it in nice condition, a nice little run around for the weekend.
There are journalists like Jeremy Clarkson and people like that have said this is probably one of the finest handling chassis of any car on road.
Really?
I think it was when they used to present Top Gear, it was their car of the year for that.
I mean, it does have the wheels are almost at all four corners, which bodes well. I had a friend of mine that had one. My abiding memory is rust around the rear wheel arches.
Don't worry, find a Peugeot 206.
Yeah. If you want to get any suggestions for that classic car selection, you can email the Car-Boyz at car-boys@outlook.com. Facebook, car-boys at Car-Boys, 4 Zs at the end, always with a Z. Car-boys at car_boys is our nom de plume at Twitter or nom de guerre. And Instagram at car_boys with 3 Zs at the end. Instagram, and unlike most Instagram pages, ours is incredibly clean.
We've got last week's sponsor on there, and also a viewer sent in a picture of a Morris Minor, which is still
nice. Nice to see a bit of a moggy. We need to do the moggy as a classic car selection. To note there. Let's do Lost Highways. Thank you. Didn't he die the other day, actually? I think he's just died. Not Sergio Leone. He was the director.
Morricone?
Enrique Morricone. Yes, he's just died. Yeah. He was the composer of that. He was the composer of The Godfather. Once Upon a Time in America. It's quite sad to see that he's gone, but it happens to us all.
Quite late in his career, he got an Oscar as well.
What was that for?
I can't remember the name. It wasn't that long ago. It was about 5-6 years ago. You ended up getting an Oscar.
I'll do some research while you're talking, and we'll find out at the end of this feature. Now, this feature is where listeners email in and give us their favourite driving roads and the reason they love them. Could be a quiet coastal road that leads down to the sea. Alternatively, it could be a straight 2-lane blacktop that leads to infinity and invites you to gun the pedal to the metal. Whatever your poison, let us know your perfect driving road here at Car-Boyz. Medicine Hat 57 has got in touch saying, it's not easy to try to pick a favourite road, but this was from a Croatian road trip, as there were many driving roads that were superb. His first drive south from Zagreb to the coastline was on sweeping open country roads, full of switchbacks, secluded roads, golden forests, there we go, there it is, and local produce, followed by a final mountain pass with hairpin bends that brings you down to the sea. You cruise along the Dalmatian coast, where hopefully you'll see a Dalmatian or two. You'll meet the sea, and you'll get to the bridge on the island, of Pag. On this drive, nothing looks like anything you've seen before. It is magical. One of the unexpected landscapes is the best Roman architecture outside of Italy, and turquoise waters that look like they're shipped in from Southeast Asia. The journey continues on a high road with breathtaking views to the sea. The roads might not be in good condition as they were before, as potholes are nasty surprises, especially for your sports car, possibly your Ford Puma. There was fairly little traffic on these roads in April time, but you'll find several motorcyclists exploring what is most likely to be considered a motorbike heaven on earth. My parents went to the Dalmatian coast before the war, so like 30 odd years ago, and they said it was beautiful. It's effectively, Croatia is a poor man's Italy because it's right next door to Italy. It doesn't cost as much, and it's far less explored. The whole of the former Yugoslavia is supposed to be gorgeous. So there we go.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Medicine 57.
Our next email comes from Plain Jane from Seattle. I see what she's done there. Obviously, that's where they build the planes in Seattle. She says her favourite stretch of road is the Brazilian highway, the BR-101. She says it's the main Brazilian road that follows the entire length of the Atlantic coast. It goes from Rio Grande do Sul state to Rio Grande do Norte state, which I assume is the south to north. It stretches in a total of 4,700 kilometres, which is almost 3,000 miles.
Best picture, it's mostly tarmac, but you know, get the idea.
And it extends from the city of Churros to the north to San Jose, to the south of the country. It passes through 12 Brazilian states, including Rio Grande do Norte, Paraíba, Pernambuco, Alagoas, Sergipe.
You've scuppered yourself here, haven't you, really?
Oh, yes. Bahia, Espírito Santo de Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, Paraná, and Santa Catarina, and the Rio Grande do Sul. The northern section extending to Curitiba, to the border of the Sao Paulo, is not constructed to preserve the area, which is part of the Atlantic forest. The BR 101 is includes the Rio Nitiri Bridge at Garamba Bay, which looks like, he says, like that. That's what it looks like.
Oh, that's nice.
It's the longest pre-stressed concrete bridge in the southern hemisphere. Obviously, you don't have to go all the way on the road, but since you were passing through the gorgeous expanses of the Brazilian coast, no matter what small section you do, you will be impressed. So there you go. So that's
great. A couple of good lost highways. Again, get in touch with the show if you want to suggest your lost highway. Talking of which, advice on motoring in Mexico. Coming up next. Morricone, that was it. Hateful Eight, the best original music screenplay, best musical score for the Quentin Tarantino movie, The Hateful Eight, 2016. So he was still churning it out quite late into his career. I worked at a classical music station, which shall be named, remain nameless, and I do remember him coming in, and that was 15, 16 years ago, and he did look quite old then, so looked quite elderly. Right, what were we talking about? Oh, yes, it's time to open up the cabinet that contains a special bulging mailbag. It's time now on the show to open up and shift up there. Delve into the mailbag in the mailbag and see what letters. Nobody sends us letters; it's the old emails.
Exactly.
We're not giving out an address. That would be creepy. I believe you've got the first one, Simon.
Yes, Sophie from the Wild West Midlands says, "Hi, Car-Boyz. I've got a problem. I think there's creams to that. A dilemma, and I don't know how to solve it. She has inherited her grandmother's 2003 light blue Volvo S60. That's good. So it's not one of the ones that's being recalled. Grandma bought it from new, and it's done 100,000 miles. Sophie has owned it for 2 years, and it's been great. It's a 4-door saloon with 2-litre petrol, full leather, albeit beige, and an auto box. Her garage says that it needs a new cam belt. Last one changed was at 50,000 miles. Is it worth it, or shall she move on?"
I'd say that's more tan than that's not. But she said beige, but I reckon that's like orangey tan.
That's tan. Yes,
I quite like that. I've always liked this car. I've always liked the S60.
Yes.
I'm surprised. I mean, all right, it's an auto, so that sort of makes it a little bit slower.
Because of course the S40, the old S40, was based on the Mitsubishi Charisma. So I think at that time they started doing. I think that Ford had started owning them, so it might be a Mondeo.
It's pretty much a Mondeo underpinnings, but it's capable. It's reliable. This car going to be worth about £1,000 to £1,500, if that.
Yeah.
So new cam belt, 300 quid. Keep the car on the road. It's only had 2 owners, you and your grandmother. Why not just drive it? They're not as solid as they were in the 70s and 80s, but that's not a bad thing because this is a relatively sporty small sedan. Besides the fact, if it's going to cost you £500 a year to keep on the road, that's only 2 months' payment on a lease car. You're going to get nothing for £500 on the open market. Not with the provenance. This has got provenance. You know what this is. You know what's been done. You know how you drive it. And I'm imagining your grandmother used to drive it, well, like a grandmother.
Very much so. They're not bad cars. They are, as you said, they are reliable, fairly reliable, and it's a Volvo.
I saw one of these for sale down my road for about £2,000. It must have been about 4. Actually, it's longer. It's probably 6 years ago. and I was very tempted to buy it because it just looked so solid. You can't see it on this, but they've got quite a funky sort of tail fin on the back as well.
Yes.
Sort of molded. Yeah, keep hold of it. Why not? You're not going to get anything. Yeah. I've got a mate of mine that's got an R-Reg BMW. He's just spent £1,000 on it. I mean, the thing's worth probably less than 800 quid. Yeah. But it's a 1998 BMW, and he's like, yeah, but I know what's wrong with it. I like it. You know, £1,000, not bad to keep a car on the road. Alvin, not from the Chipmunks, but from Edinburgh, says, all right, boys, how's it going? His daughter passed here. You big jobby. His daughter has just passed her driving. I thought it's just passed away. I was going to say condemned. No, she's just passed her driving license earlier this year. She's got a work placement for the summer. Part study, part college, part working. 10 miles away. So Alvin is thinking, I want to buy a small car. What brand do you reckon? Simon, any thoughts?
I would go trendy. I would go Mini.
Ooh, Mini. He doesn't say budget, but go on.
Yeah, obviously the smaller ones, so the entry ones, the Mini ones, usually pretty good, which would be the R53 or the R56. Comes with 1.4 engine, fairly reliable. Okay. It's not too bad. So yeah, I would go for a Mini. Although as a student, I think we'd probably say Japanese. We always usually recommend.
And we always do just go, look, smaller car engine will get smaller insurance premiums unless she's going to be named driver. There's lots of electronic boxes. My niece's boyfriend had one installed in his car for the first year. That brings the insurance down, and they sort of, they tell you what sort of driver you're going to be using satellites. I would go for something very small. Toyota Aygo, Suzuki Alto, maybe Korean. We found this one, 10-year-old Hyundai i10. Really boring. 4-door. That was just over £1,000. I mean, really?
Not bad.
It's a throwaway car, but your first car, and let's face it, it's our first car. There's going to be dents all over this.
Yes, dents, scratches.
This will be scratched on a wall. I didn't see the door, Dad. That'll be smashed. Wheels curbed. I'm just saying.
But that's the thing. It's a good way of building up no claims bonuses and so on. So yeah,
that's correct.
Cheap Korean cars.
Right, we're going south of the border. Oh no, not quite Mexico. Next, we're going to Spain, I believe.
Yes, we're going to Katrina from Marbella. Says hello, Car-Boyz. She's got a problem. Everyone's writing in with problems. Oh no, sorry. Car problems. Problem with a 2007 Saab 9.3 two-door convertible. Nice. Linear 2 litre in gold. So she's not going to be old. She loves.
Maybe she's South Asian. Come on. Don't be ageist. You can be racist on this program, but not ageist.
She loves her car, but the aircon is starting to get a little tired. It doesn't get very cold. It takes a bit of a hit when it first starts. Does she need a new compressor? Or to be honest, car's only worth a few thousand at most. Is it worth shelling out for an older car? I do like those Saabs.
I like the look. I'm not sure about the it's green gold. It's if Snot's married gold, isn't it? Do you remember there's an episode of Blackadder where Percy decided to become what was it? An alchemist, and instead of producing purest gold, he produced purest green, which Blackadder commented, look, and he fashioned the purest green into a brooch, and Blackadder commented that it looked like he'd snotted on his lapel. I would say that's a cross between gold and purest green. Nice looking car though. In a word, Simon, shall we say yes? You're in Spain,
and it's a convertible. Okay, yes, you probably need the advantage of aircon when you've got your windows closed and your roof up. It obviously keeps it cool, but then you're not getting the benefits of that when you drop the head of your convertible.
That's true.
So I would say, possibly, if you want to, if you've got the money, do it.
I think in the word yes. The gold colour just looks terrible, but it is fine. I think Katrina might be of a certain age.
We're not here to discuss the colour.
No, we're not. Right. You need to have somebody investigate this because it could be the compressor. So that's going to be 400 quid. But I guarantee if she's driving this in Spain, you and me are thinking, oh, you drive down with the top all the time. You don't. I lived in Thailand. You drive with the roof up all the time because the sun is punishing.
Wow. Okay.
The sun is too hot. In England, the moment we get a bit of sun, the biggest buyers of soft tops convertibles are the UK.
Hairdressers.
Yeah, hairdressers are the UK. So the biggest buyers of convertibles and soft tops in Europe are the UK. The people that buy the least amount, Spanish. It is too hot to spend 6 months of the year driving around in that. So she's going to have the roof up. You're going to have the roof up. You're going to want the aircon. Okay, right. So I would personally shell out 400 quid for cool air in Spain. But she's telling us that it's a mechanical issue as well. So she says she's getting like a whir at the start, which she thought was the compressor. That could be the expansion valve just being old. And older cars will make noises. Lack of cold could just be the fact the aircon needs regassing. They're going to do so because that goes in and out like that, and there's a little grommet there, and that sounds horrendously dirty. I hope somebody doesn't re-edit this on YouTube. But the gases from the aircon escape. They all leak. Yeah. All cars are going to need regassing every 10 years. Get a mechanic to have a look. I think in Spain, she's going to want the aircon.
I know with my old car that they can put a UV dye into the compressor, so you can actually see if it is leaking. With a UV light, you're able to see where that leak is coming from.
I've seen somebody doing this on YouTube with a cigar, blowing into the aircon system and seeing if any of the cigar comes out. And obviously, nice to enjoy a cigar. I'm not just saying that.
In your green Saab.
In your green Saab. Fashioned of purest green. Finally, Davey in San Diego says, hola, Car-Boyz. Taking a break from his job at the beginning of next year. I think we all might be taking a break from our jobs by next year. He's going to take a 4-month break. He's going to head down to Mexico, south of the border. And he says, I know you limeys may not know the answer, but should I bring my own car or hire one on the other side, or maybe even buy one? What do you think? Lucky guy to have that much time off and not be, well, at least hopefully he won't be furloughed and hopefully be allowed to travel around Mexico.
He's been furloughed.
Yeah, he's been furloughed permanently. Get to the chopper. Get your head down. I furloughed him. He does live in California. Arnie used to be his governor. Yes. I think we should do this for the dolphins. Environmentalism. What are we saying? Mexico. I've been to Mexico. I thought it was quite safe. I've not been to Juarez. I've not been to the cartel areas, but I've been to a couple of tourist areas. It's pretty safe on the roads. The roads are nice. I'm surprised how put together the roads are. Cars are quite new. Stay out of poor urbanized areas. Stay out of lonely roads. Stay on the main highway. You're going to be fine. Pretty easy to take your car into Mexico from the US if you're an American citizen. You're going to need a few bits of documentation. Obviously, American passport, American driving license, a Mexican immigration card, a permit to temporarily import the car, the latter of which you can order online. And I don't think they're too expensive, like $50 or something. Okay. Make sure you've got insurance for Mexico as well, because your American insurance, your North American insurance will not cover it. Right. You get specialist companies that insure Americans to go down south, because there are lots of Americans that retire in places like Puerto Vallarta and Cabo. There's a few reminders what not to do. Don't drive drunk. You will be arrested. Don't drive at night. This is dangerous because lots of cars don't have lights. Make sure you have the number for Verde Los Angeles, which are the Green Angels. And they apparently are a Mexican patrol service that's provided by the government. If you dial 078, they will send somebody out to get you. And they will help you get back on the road for free. It's a government-run service. All you got to do is pay for their petrol and for parts. So if they have to go and get parts and come back, you pay for that. You pay for the charge on the parts. But what a fantastic service!
It's not quite the AA, and it's not quite the Guardian Angels that run the subway.
It's the Green Angels. I was just amazed that it's like people have this impression of Mexico. I was a bit disappointed because I've lived in various middle-income countries. And I would thought it was going to be really, everybody's going to be in cowboy hats. They're all going to be driving 1978 Rancheros or El Caminos. And they weren't driving either. They were in like Nissans, a lot of brand new Nissans. I was like, okay, where are all the funky Mexican cars? I maybe saw one funky old truck. Everything else was like 5-10 years old.
And of course, Davey doesn't tell us what car he has got.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't. No.
I would suggest you wanted something relatively reliable.
Yes.
But if he is going from main centre to main centre, I've driven about, not about 30, 40 miles in Mexico around, and I thought it was very safe.
Okay. Oh, there you go. So we do travel.
When you get off at the airports, you do see the federales with huge machine guns.
Nice.
Just to warn you, you go, where have I come? So, and don't look too much like. Learn some Spanish, Davey, as well. I mean, you're in San Diego. I'm hoping you already speak a bit of Spanish.
Especially if you're going to be there for 4 months.
Yes.
Take that time off.
Yes. Is it that time for the quiz?
It is time for the quiz.
We have some music. Stand by. Hang on. Let's try this again. There we go. More cowbell. There we go. Time now on the Car-Boyz. Thank you, audience, for our big quiz. This week we're going back to basics with Name That Car. It's very easy.
Okay.
I'll show you a car. You have to name the make and the model. On offer, a trip of lifetime to Skegness, staying at a luxury 2-star B&B right opposite the brown, cold North Sea. Wow, what a prize. No, not that this is an easy quiz this week, so even a fool could take home the star prize. Talking of a fool, we've got one here. Lovely young man from up north, well, north of the river, who's joining us with a chance of taking home that star prize. Well, either that or a toaster we got from Free Cycle. Simon, how are you today? You ready for the quiz?
Oh, good. I'm very excited about this quiz, so yes, looking forward to it.
Super, smashing, great. If you're ready, we'll begin. Now, this car may have gotten terrible gas mileage, but you are always the centre of the stage when driving this beast of a machine. What is the car pictured? Is it A, a Chevy Impala, B, a Buick Riviera boat tail, C, an AMC Courtauld, or D, a Ford Falcon?
Ooh, that's
Would you like
quite
those
a vehicle. Yes, please.
Chevy Impala, Buick Riviera boat tail, AMC Courtauld, or Ford Falcon?
I am going to take a punt. I'm not sure, but the tail does look odd, so I would go for the boat tail.
You are correct. Buick Riviera boat tail. I believe, I may be wrong here, featured in the movie Training Day. I think he drove one of those. Denzel Washington. I nearly said Samuel L. Jackson. That would have been racist. Moving on, question 2. I'm quite clever. I'm quite clever like that. Can you name this pictured luxury personal vehicle? Can you name this pictured luxury vehicle? Is it A, a Suzuki GS 1000S, a 1961 Jaguar E-Type, a Toyota Corona, or a Nissan Skyline? This is an easy one.
I would go for the Jaguar E-Type.
It is correct, although if we'd been in America, you would have been incorrect.
Jaguar.
You have to say Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Yeah, to the Jaguar. A beautiful looking car. Correct. Hang on, you need a ding. Well done. Ding. So 2 out of 2 so far. Doing well. That luxury holiday in Scarborough could be yours. If you wanted muscle and class rolled into one in the 1960s, this manufacturer's car was your first choice. What is this car pictured? Is it A, a Chevrolet Corvette, B, a Ford Mustang, C, a General Motors Y platform, or D, a Chrysler Imperial? It sounds like this.
And that's just idle. I think it is. Did you say Stingray in there?
A Chevrolet Corvette.
Yes. Oh, Corvette. So I'll go for the Corvette.
It is. It's a Corvette Stingray Mark II, which, in my mind, is the prettiest of the marks.
And in gold.
And in gold, not half, with side pipes, and that is quite rare on the back as well. That, I believe, is that sort of split roof, which is quite rare. What an absolute lovely car.
Ooh,
3 out of
car.
3, doing well so far. Moving on. This car pictured premiered in Japan in 1969. But what is its name? Is this car a Daihatsu Copen? Is this car a Daihatsu Cherry? A Datsun Cherry even? Is this car a Nissan Fairlady Z or Z? Or is this car a Honda Civic? What do you think?
I would say partly because when I was little, I used to have a Matchbox one of these, which was black. And you see on the bonnet where it's flat, I scratched off a bit of the black paint and used a red marker to make it look like the Knight Rider car.
Nice.
So I would say that's a Datsun Fairlady Z.
Yes, it's the Nissan Fair. No, actually, it was the Datsun at the time. The Datsun Fairlady Z, or as I say in America, Z. And can you see how much they've ripped off the MG?
Yes.
I mean, they really have ripped off the. That looks like an MG had sex with GTO, maybe even a Corvette.
Yeah.
Just saying. This car manufacturer is far from a household name. This next one, but the results speak for themselves. What is this car pictured? Is this car a Ford Falcon? Is this car an Aero SSC? Is this car an AMC Gremlin? Or is this car the Hudson Hornet? Now, if you have small children, you're going to know the answer to this.
I am going to take a guess because I don't know it. Because it's quite a huge car, I'm going to go for Hudson.
You are correct. As voiced by Paul Newman in the movie Cars, this is the Hudson Hornet, which was driven by many doctors in America, but was a bit of a sleeper car because it had a huge engine and was capable of lots of fantastic on-road capabilities. The Hudson Hornet, which is very pretty, very pretty
white wall tyres.
I mean, beautiful that. You're gonna. You'd have thought. You'd have driven Miss Daisy in that, but I say the speed. You've driven Miss Daisy crazy. But that's another movie we need to talk about later on. If you went back in time 50 years, you would see these cars parked at the hottest spots in town. But what is this car pictured? Probably a little older than 50 years, probably even 60 years. Is this a Dodge Wayfarer? Is this a Chrysler Imperial? Is this a Ford Galaxy? Or is this a Cadillac Eldorado?
Ooh, I like that a lot of these are American cars, so my American car history is not good. I would go for, again, I'm going to take a punt on this just because it looks like a spaceship. I'm going to go for Galaxy.
Oh, you can't, man. Unfortunately, the Ford Galaxy was more modern than this, I believe. The telltale is that at the back. It's a Cadillac Eldorado. It's the spare wheel at the back. They always had a separate cover for the spare wheel on the back or inside the car. Anytime you see that, you know it's a Cadillac Eldorado. That little chap just there. You're not bad. You're 5 out of 6 so far. You're still in the chance of winning that holiday to Skegness. Worth over £1 million or $1 million. Doesn't matter which. About the same these days, unfortunately. What rare car is pictured here? Is it a Lamborghini Diablo, a Ferrari 288 GTO, a Ferrari 308 GTB, that would be the Magnum one, or the Ferrari Dino?
Oh, I am thinking it's definitely a Ferrari.
It is.
What was it? 280?
288 GTO, 308 GTB, the Magnum one, or a Dino?
I'm trying to think if the Magnum car actually looked like that at the back. So I'm going to take a guess at the 288 GTO.
You are correct, the 288 GTO. Obviously, if you could see inside this car, it didn't have a special holder for the moustache, which the Ferrari 308 GTB, the Magnum one, had. Which you always
had to stick that on
for your stick-on Magnum moustache. Right, question 8. We're not sure if you would take this bad boy on the highway, but a nice country drive would do the trick. What is this car we're picturing here? We're going back, I believe, pre-war. Is this an Alfa Romeo P3, an Austin A10, a Ford F1, or a Lancia 526?
Right. So by process of elimination, because it's red, and in the old days you used to race by country that you were from and your colour. So red was Italy, hence why Ferraris are red.
Yes.
So what are the choices? Alfa or
Alfa Romeo
Lancia?
P3A, Austin A10, Ford F1, or Lancia 526?
I'm going to take a guess then at the Alfa.
You're correct. It's the Alfa Romeo P3. Back in the days when Alfa had a huge racing pedigree. That is
and the cars didn't break down.
And the cars didn't break down. They probably did. I love the fact the cloverleaf. I looked at the cloverleaf the other day because Alfa Romeo obviously has a weird badge on the front with a dragon on it, and I think there's a cross. And with what the cloverleaf was, the cloverleaf symbol, it was just lucky, as simple as that.
Lucky it didn't break down.
Lucky it didn't break down. This is one of the first luxury cars produced by this company. What car are we looking at here in this picture? GMC Starlight, Ford Fairlane, Chevrolet Impala or Chevy Impala, Lincoln Continental Mark II.
Oh, so because it's a size of a barge, I'm going to guess at Lincoln Continental.
Correct. I don't believe that this one had the suicide doors. The Mark II in the four-door version, of course, the one that JFK was killed in.
Yes.
What a beautiful-looking boat that is. The Lincoln Continental Mark II. Our final question. Well, we've got a couple more. We've got this one and we've got a bonus question.
Okay.
So this is our final official question. What teenage guy in the 1970s didn't dream about having this all-American classic in their garage? But what car are we pictured here? Is it a Dodge Coronet? Is it a Chevy Impala SS? Is it a Pontiac Firebird or a Ford Mustang Mark I?
Now, I don't know this. I've seen this sort of car before, but I don't know it. And it's probably something really, really obvious, but I'll go by the grille. So yes. I'm going to say Pontiac.
You are correct. The Firebird. The Trans Am was the follow-up to this, but this was the original look of the Pontiac Firebird. What a gorgeous car. And it is, you're right, it's got the two sort of spaces at the front to above the or below there, that always points it out as a Firebird as opposed to anything else. One of the last muscle cars. Our final bonus question is for that microwave oven that we got off Free Cycle. And also we're giving away a 1987 FSO Polonaise, which is currently being used as a skip in Hounslow. Deliciously old school, tastefully refined. What is pictured in this high-end car? The doors are probably the giveaway. Is it A, Lamborghini Diablo or Diablo, a Lamborghini Aventador, a Ferrari 308, or a Reliant Robin?
It is, now I've got to get this right, so it's a Lamborghini, but your options were the Aventador was the newer one and the Diablo was the slightly older one, so I'm going to go for Diablo.
Oh, let's see. And our survey says correct. Yes, Yay! It was the Lamborghini Diablo. Thank you, audience. And the way you could always obviously tell that is the doors. Is the beetle wing doors on the, I don't know what they do on the Aventador, I think they just don't know, but it was the beetle wing doors that fold forward. You could tell that was a Lamborghini Diablo. Diablo. What a lovely looking thing, an amazing, probably a pain to park, a pain to flip and insure, a pain to drive. That's about it from the show. Yes, of course, Simon, you are walking away with that lovely holiday in Lincolnshire. I hope you get COVID-19 because you got a 10 out of 11. Well, I don't hope you get COVID-19. You probably are going to get it. Make sure you wear the mask or don't wear the mask. Yes. Wear some gloves. Don't wear some gloves. Take all the advice that our government is not not giving us. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Car-Boyz, there's all the bits and pieces. You can email the show, car-boys@outlook.com. Facebook, we're car-boys at Car-Boyz with 4 Zs. Twitter, car-boys at car_boys, boys always with a Z, and Instagram at car_boys with 3 Zs. Get in touch. Thank you very much for tuning in, Simon. Anything exciting happening to you this week?
Yes, I'm going to explore Skegness.
Oh, enjoy Skegness. Take a mask, not because of COVID, just because you're going to Skegness. Thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.